Hello everyone. So in today's video, we will learn what is state. So state is basically a concept of React in which what happens, a re-rendering of our page happens whenever there is some change on our page. So whenever there is some change in our UI, so it will re-render the entire page. So let's see. So we have created state.jsx file. Then let's import that file here. Here we have imported that file. Let's go here, make the changes and export default function state change return one single root element with let's say this is a counter, and let's say we have a button that has click me. All right, and let's add an on click event. So increase counter, let's go and create this increase counter. Let increase counter equal to, or no, we do need this console.log. That is increase. Let's enter a comma. What is the error? Equal to. All right, so whenever we go here we have counter value, and here we have click me. Whenever we go refresh, click me, counter is increased, so our method is working. Now what we want to do is that whenever we click on counter, we should have a variable here that keeps on increasing its value. So let's see how we can do it. So to achieve that effect, what we need to use is that we will need to use states. Now states are the React concept that lets you change the UI, or it re-renders the UI whenever there is some change in our page. So let's check it out on our React page, and we can go in describing the UI and adding interactivity, render and commit. A states a components memory. So state components often need to change what's on screen as a result of interaction. So whenever we are clicking on something, so it should change. Whenever we are adding something to cart, it should change. So yeah, that is basically state. So if you go down, we can see import. First we have to import useState from React. So let's do that. And once we have done that, what we have to do is that we have to use this array. So what this array does is that it has our variable, and variable, then we have to set the variable's value. So useState is a method that returns an array of exactly two elements. First one is our variable's initial state, and next one is an updater function that updates our array's value or our variable's value. So here you can see index is our variable, and set index is an updater function that will update the value of index. So let's copy this and let's paste it here. Okay, so instead of index, what we'll do is use counter and then counter. Initially, the value of our counter should be set at 0 and increase counter. All right. Then we have to set the value of index, or in our case, a number. So what we want to do is that in our increase counter, we want to re-render our counter whenever this happens, whenever we click on the button. So what we can do is here we can call the set counter method. And what we want to set the value is, so we want to set the value as counter plus 1. All right. So here we have set our set counter to counter plus 1. So this is the counter. This is the initial value of our counter. And what this use state will do is that it will return an array of two elements. In first will be our original value for the first case, and then it will be the set counter. That is the updater function. What the updater function will do is that it will increase the value of counter by 1. Now let's place the value. So we want the counter is counter. Here our variable is declared. This is our counter. That variable is internally declared by React, and that we can directly use here. Now let's go to our page, and whenever we will click on this button, the value of counter will increase by 1. Let's do this. This is 1. Whenever we are clicking, let's do one thing. Here, let's store the value of let count equals to counter, and console dot log counter, and again let's console log our counter twice. We can say see the value of counter before the state is changed and after the state is changed. Let's refresh this, and let's also do one thing here. Also, let's add 1 or before, and let's add after. refresh. So here we can see the counter has increased. Here the value of counter is again 0. This is again 1. All right. And this year, what we can see the year after also the value is coming as 0. That is because whenever we call the set counter function, what it will do is that it will again re-render the component from top to bottom. So here the value is going to be 0 only. But whenever we re-render each and every component, the value of counter itself increases. Okay. So the value of counter is taken from here. Let's again click me. See the value is changed from to 1. This 0 0 is coming because of the initial stage. Now here we can see whenever we click on our first this our UI is rendered. Then when we click on the button, so our initial state is 0 0 again 0 0. So here 0 will be printed. That is this 0. Right? Currently it's 0. Why? Because we have set the initial condition is 0. Then when we click on again we click on the button. So what happens? The increase counter method is called. When increase counter method is called, console log dot this method is called. This is this prints the value as 0 because up to till here the updater function is not work. Then we call the set counter method. Now this is an asynchronous function because of what happens. So because of that, what happens is that it runs in the background and then this method is called. So it is again 0. This value is also 0. And then for next iteration it comes as 1, comes as 1. So we can see that in action here. Click me 0 before, 0 after, again 1 before, 1 after, again 2 before, 2 after. Here you can see the line codes 7 and 9, 7 and 9. Yeah, and this is what state does. What state does is that it re-renders the UI whenever there is a change in a variable or change in the variable from the initial state. All right. Now, if we want to increase the count by 2, so what we can do is that we can change our function here, update function here, 0, then 2, yes, yes, again and again, and so on. All right. 2, then it is 4, then it is 6, 8, 10. Right. This is how it happens. Let's be curious and do this. Now let's see what happens. All right. So here you can see the value is updated. Here the value is updated. When it is 2 year, it is also 2 year. Again, let's do the same thing and put this as 4. Click me. So what we are getting is 4, 3, before, after, 4, 3 again. So here you can see our UI is re-rendered because this 4 and 3 are printed again and again, right? 4 and 3 is printed again. 4 and 3 is printed here also, but the counter values are changing 0, 0, 2, 2. And this is how our we can confirm that state re-renders our UI because you can see neither 0 or it is printed twice, but 4 and 3 are printed twice here and here, here and here. So yeah, this is the basic concept of state. A state is a React concept that helps us re-render the UI based on changes that are fed in by the user. Now, since we have understood the basics of state, let's do one thing. Let's create a like button using states. So let's comment this out. Also, let's comment this out and let's comment this out as well. So, or what we can do is also just backspace this and again delete this. Right. So here we have our div. What happened to this? Right. And inside this div, we have a button. So what our button should initially show is that it should show a heart. So what we can do is we can go to font awesome, copy our this heart, and you can paste it here. Right now, what is this? Don't need this. Now, first, what you will have to do to use font awesome library, what you will have to do is just go to cdsjn. Right, we have to copy font awesome's link. Click on this link tag, copy link tag, go to your index.html and paste that link tag here. All right, once you have pasted that, now you can use any font from the font awesome library in your React. Go to state and let's see if our button is created. First, we will have to import this button and add.jsx. So let's do that. And right here, I've already created a like component. Let's comment this out. Let's go to our page in React. Here you can see we have a heart button. All right. So yeah, and let's just comment this out. Actually, I've made a mistake. There must be some another. Okay, there is already this existing like code. So let's delete this. This is from earlier when I was practicing. I'm editing this in the state itself. Right. So let's go on the page again. Here we can see that nothing will happen. All right, but we still have this button. Now in state, what we want to do is that whenever we click on the button, our UI should be rendered and this should change to like solid one. this one, right? So first what we want to do is we want to make a change whenever some click happens. So we need to first define a non-click value and change like button, all right? So we will have to define this method. Let uh, oh, I press Control C again, Control V. So what should happen is that a callback should happen to an asynchronous function. But before that, we'll have to define the state. So what we want to do is const like comma set like, and we want to set the value of our button initially to false. False meaning that our button should not be liked. So on Instagram, you go and whenever you find some post interesting or valuable, then you double click on it or tap on it so that your post is liked. It is not already liked, and if okay, and if you feel that you don't like the post, then you don't have to unlike. The post is already unliked, and if you double tap on the post, then it gets liked. So what we want to do is that uh, first we create a variable that is like whose initial value is false, meaning it is not like, and then we create a updater function that is set like, which will then change the value of like to not of like. So yeah, let's call that function set like to not of like. All right, and then we come here, and since we have defined a JavaScript variable named like, so we will have to write everything about curly braces. Then we'll use our ternary operator. So we say that value of like, if it is true, then what we want the solid one. So we go here, and if it is false, which one we want? We need this. All right. So this is our simple like button. What we did first, we created a button, then we added a method to it. When we added the method, we realized that we want to change something. And when we realize that we want to change something, when that means that we want to re-render our UI. When we realize that we want to re-render our UI, how can we re-render it? We can re-render it using states. So this is how the actual logical uh, flow of your code should be. First, you create the on-click. Then when you create the on-click, you realize that you need use state. Only then you can create use state, right? So let's go on our page and see what happens. We have here. Okay, let's also do one thing. Console log dot log button was clicked and function f12. Class, did you mean class name? When did I use class name? I didn't use it. Let's ignore that. Let's ignore that value. Let's see what happens. Button was clicked. When we are clicking on it, button was clicked. When we are again clicking on that, same thing happens. Okay, so our button is toggling. Same if you want the Instagram one that works on double click. So here we can say on double click, and here we can go on single click. Nothing is happening, but we can go double click. Button was clicked twice. Refresh. Okay, the state of our button is changing. Again, it is changing to this. Again, it is changing. Again, it is changing. Yeah. So this is how it works. Let's change this to single. So this is our like button or a like button component.